Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
What's not going to change in the next 10 years? Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. As many of you longtime listeners know, I've got 3 young kids, young enough where they're all still in the house, 13, 10, and 8. And I spend a considerable amount of time thinking about them and praying over them and trying to be the best parent and guide for them, helping them to learn the life skills they need. And I find myself sometimes asking, like, are they even going to need this? Like, is college going to even matter for my 8-year-old? I think it still will for my 13-year-old because she's so much closer. But the way things are changing right now, and I'm not talking about just AI, I'm talking about just our society in general. Things are going at just crazy paces, from technology to social media and just all the things that I feel like are happening in front of our faces. It just happens at an alarming rate. And you know, many people, some smart people like the Zuckerbergs and stuff are, you know, they're almost kind of embracing for these changes and saying that, hey, my kids probably won't go to college. It's worthless. And you start hearing that, you're like, man, like what is life going to look like for our kids? And I'm on a bunch of different emails, and I'm a avid reader of not just books and listening to podcasts, but also just get on a lot of email lists. And I like to read them early in the morning, like I'm recording this here. It's currently 4:45 a.m. And this one guy, Ryan Levesque, he's more of a business guy, but also has young kids like me around the same age, and spent some time talking about business and life. And he had a really interesting email. I'm going to read part of it just to kind of set the stage here. And this was really about what is life going to look like in the next 10 years. And so he starts off by saying, it's officially the end of an era. In case you missed it, Microsoft announced that Skype will be shutting down on May 5th, 2025. Yeah, Skype, the category-defining behemoth that Microsoft purchased for $8.5 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, back in 2011, not that long ago in the big scheme of things. And it's being shut down, as in done, not profitable, worthless, trash, done, not even selling it in the next 60 days. Like Xerox, Skype, which at one point had over 300 million monthly users, was once simultaneously both the product and the verb that we used for more than 2 decades, right? I mean, everyone talked about Skype. Oh, yeah, just call you on Skype, right? And it's literally done, guys, gone away. And the press release was a sobering reminder, and for many a wake-up call, that in business, almost nothing lasts forever. No market, no business, no platform, no product, no matter how dominant or essential it once seemed. And during the AI boom that we're in right now, where it feels like the ground is shifting beneath our feet and the rules of marketing change virtually every single week, a question that's worth taking a moment to reflect on is the following. But what, if anything, does not change? Lately, I've been thinking about the skills I want to pass on to my sons. Not the ones that are trending right now, and not the ones that will help them get ahead next year, but the ones that will serve them for a lifetime. The skills that will matter in 10, 20, 50 years, no matter what technology does, no matter what AI does, no matter any of the roles that this play. And many of the roles that we are playing in life right now are fleeting, and which is I'll skip that part. It's a little bit talking more about business. But it's clear that this pace of change in the world is accelerating, not just with AI and technology, but in the very fabric of how we work, communicate, and do business. Yet, in the midst of all this, there is a contrarian truth. What's not changing is often more important than what is. And Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, says, quote, "I frequently get the question, what's going to change in the next 10 years? But I never get the question, what's not going to change in the next 10 years? And I submit to you that the second question is actually the more important of the two, because you can build a strategy around the things that are stable in time." Boom. That's pretty powerful, right? And so it got me thinking, if you have been reading about anything with AI, I mean, it's saying that very prestigious jobs like even attorneys and even doctors, I mean, could be gone, 100% gone, not 100% gone, but 80% gone. You'll still have some people, some humans that are playing some role, but over the next 10 to 15, 20 years. So it's not happening in the next 1 to 2 or even 5. It's already starting to happen at fast food places and things like that. They're already starting to train some of these robots even to give hospice care. I mean, it's crazy what is happening behind the scenes right now. And I'll share this with you. If you haven't been following this AI stuff, it's scary. So the average Harvard grad has an IQ of 140. The average college grad, so these are people who made it through college, is around that 110, 115. Okay, just put that in perspective. So a college grad, someone who's considered smart, 110, 115, 120. A Harvard grad, supposedly the best of the best, 140. Einstein, who was one of the highest IQs of all time, there has been someone who's beaten him, but he was in that 170, 190 range. Okay, so let's just say 180. Now, the IQ of AI right now, the average IQ is 180. That's what it's testing out on IQ. And it is estimated the rate it's going that by 2035, it's only 10 years from now, the average IQ of AI will be 1,330. No one's had 330 in our lifetimes or even the world. So it's saying in 10 years, AI is going to have an IQ of 1,330. That's like comparing a human to a horse, right? And that's what's so different about this. All of the other revolutions, industrial revolution, et cetera, it was, humans replacing things like horses with cars and people doing a lot of manual stuff to make it, a little bit more efficient, created more jobs. This is kind of the one time where no one really knows what's going to happen. Like, if all these robots have IQs of 1330, what are we going to do? And I'm not doing this podcast to be fear-mongering because I'm not fearful about this. I'm actually excited. I think it'll open up opportunities, and it always takes me back to really the title of this podcast, or what things aren't going to change, right? What are things that AI, regardless of how smart or powerful or all-knowing it gets, what are things that aren't going to expire? Right? What are some skills that aren't going to expire? Let's start with that, right? Because that's to me, that's the important thing that I want to pass on to my kids, regardless if there's literally no jobs for them and everyone's just getting a stable income from the government and robots do everything. There will be some skills that don't expire that I hope my kids can understand and appreciate and embrace. I think curiosity, right? That'll never expire. I think regardless of what you're going into, curiosity is awesome, right? And that's why kids are always growing and happy and asking questions. And it's such a shame when adults stop being curious. So to me, curiosity, every time I see my kids getting curious about something, I stop what I'm doing. I get even more involved. I ask some questions and start going down some rabbit holes sometimes. If Jackson's like asking me questions about stuff, and I love the curiosity. It's one of my favorite things because that leads to like strategic thinking and thinking outside the box on things, which is one way how you possibly can outdo AI or whatever comes in the future. Number 2 is just resilience, right? I don't feel like that's talked about and taught enough. Persistence, resilience, whatever you want to call it, just not giving up, right? Because there are going to be a lot of people that have mundane, just kind of boring jobs right now that will be replaced by AI pretty quickly. And they're just going to give up and sit there and just, oh, my life's horrible. No, I mean, we have to have resilience. There will always be opportunities, which is why I think you can look at anything. I'm actually looking at a cup of water that's literally half full right now. And what did I say, right? Half full, not half empty. It's all about how you look at things. I think love, we've talked a lot about on this podcast about love. That's kind of a skill or a relationship, a thing that it will never expire. It will never go away. Regardless what happens in the future, I know that's something that will not change. People will still want to be loved. They'll want to be heard. They'll want to be understood. And I think the more that you can be communicators and love on one another, you will always be fine. And that's a big reason that we've been so, I mean, I know my kids hate it, but we've been so stingy on not giving them a ton of access to phones and social media, just holding off as long as possible. Because what I've watched happen, even in nice Christian private schools where my kids are, and this is not a knock on them, this is happening everywhere, no matter where you are. But once these kids get into the point where everyone in their class has a phone, they stop talking. I literally watch them when I pick them up. I mean, these 8th and 9th graders, they're literally outside waiting to get picked up, and they're not talking to each other. They're texting to each other. It's crazy. So you can already guess where I'm going with this, just the ability to communicate. Because if you can't communicate and you got an AI robot that has an IQ of 1330 and you're sitting there just doing emojis on a phone, you aren't going to have a job. You're not going to have much of anything. So just having the ability to communicate. And I think as parents, the earlier you let your kids have access to all of that stuff, it gives them the opt out to not have to communicate. I mean, it's the reason many of us use grown adults. I'll text sometimes because I don't want to feel like getting on a long phone call with someone. It's natural when you give someone the ability to just do quick little text and talk like that. And we're watching it happen with our own kids. I mean, we're talking 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old kids. Do you think all of a sudden they're going to wake up one day and say, you know what, I don't want this phone. I'm just going to start having some long conversations and hanging out with people more face to face? No, it's a slippery slope. I mean, look what's happened to us. It's probably one of the most addicting things that, and I don't know anyone who's ever gotten rid of it. I literally don't know a single person. I know some people who never got a smartphone still to this day, but I've never met a single person who had a smartphone, got on social media, had a phone where they could do all the things that we can do with apps, and just went cold turkey and is done away with it. I know people who've got off social media, but I've not met a single person who's had a smartphone and literally lived with a smartphone for a year and has gotten rid of it. It's not, I don't think it's possible. And it's going to be even more impossible as we continue to grow with technology where everything has to be done on an app. And if you don't have access to an app, you can't even purchase things. You can't go anywhere and do anything. You can't even go into an airport. I mean, it's getting to that point where the paper is going away. Once again, not to scare or get derailed on this, but just to say that this is a wake-up call for all of us, guys, on what we're doing, and going back to the skills that don't expire. I think generosity is another really big one. It's something I talk about constantly. I wrote about it in Fishing for Happiness. I talked about it in that video I did about anxiety when I even just started writing down who I'm grateful for and just being more generous with my time and money and my love, all of that. Things just started getting better. I started waking up with less anxiety, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't know the science behind it, but that generosity and the feelings and even just the act of feeling grateful and being grateful for people around you and acknowledging that, whether it's face to face or via text or just writing it down in your journal in the morning, there is just something magical that happens. One that Ryan talked about later in this email was taste, meaning having good taste. That's a really interesting one because that is one gift that we have as humans. And I'm not talking about the ability to taste something like food, although that plays into it, but just the ability to have good taste. Right now, AI doesn't really know what good taste is, right? It can crank out 5 billion pages. If you told it to write a book today, it'll have a 300-page book done for you by the end of the day, but that doesn't mean it's great taste, meaning it doesn't mean it's going to be a top seller, right? Having a book with good taste or something that people are going to find tasteful or want to enjoy and tell others about, that is a whole separate skill set, which goes back to being, curious and a thinker. That'll be the one I think AI is going to have the toughest time beating humans with, because right now we're the ones telling it hey, here's what good taste is. I don't know if it'll ever be able to deal with humans and be able to outcreate humans in terms of taste. Could be wrong. Like I said, with an IQ of 1,330, who knows what this is capable of? And that does happen, guys. I mean, think about it. That it will be able to run races around us, think so much faster, and of course, doesn't sleep, doesn't get sick, doesn't stop. And that's why this is so stinking scary and maybe exciting at the same time. Really, really wild. But either way, one thing is for sure, God has put us on this earth at this specific time. He's put this younger generation, these kids, and for some of you grandkids on this earth at this specific time. And I'm personally excited by it. And I think the more time that we can spend with God and with God-made things versus just man-made things and social media, the better we're going to be. And it's why I'm super proud and grateful that we have Salt Strong, that, our mission is getting people outside, getting people out fishing, creating memories, having conversations. I don't think that can ever be replaced, right? No matter where all this goes with technology in our life, that's one thing that will not change in 10 years from now is our love for the outdoors and our love for being outside with our families. So, I just encourage you guys to use this as one of those big thinker ideas, podcast ideas. It definitely grabbed me real quick after I read this, and then I started reading about the IQ part and just how much is going to change. It's easy to get fearful. It's easy to get some anxiety and saying, "Oh my gosh, what is it going to be like? Are our kids going to have jobs? Am I going to have a job?" Right? I mean, if IQ's from AI is that quick, it'll put me out of a job as CEO of our company, right? It's pretty crazy to think about. At the same point, go back to what Jeff Bezos said. Really the most important question is the second one. What's not going to change in the next 10 years? And when you start focusing on that, that's the glass half full, right? That's that's looking at everything from a shiny rose-colored lenses perspective, which is what we need to do. Because, regardless of what happens in the next 10 years, even if it's a war, it doesn't matter what it is, there's always going to be things that don't change. There's always going to be things that we're in control of. And there's always the ability to love, to be curious, to be generous, to have good taste, and have resilience. So I hope this hit home with the right people. Hopefully it's a conversation that we can continue to keep having. Like I said, I'm quite interested to see where all this goes. And I'm just going to continue to keep praying over my kids and praying for you and for me, that as parents and as guides, that we are able to guide them through the crazy times ahead and all the changes ahead. And I know at some point they're going to be where we are, where they're going to have kids of their own, and who knows what they're going to be facing in 40, 50 years from now. I mean, think about that, how much is going to change in just 40 to 50 years compared. Look at 40, 50 years ago, there was no internet, there was no iPhones, right? Just 40 years ago, none of this stuff, no social media, none of it even existed. It's crazy to think how far we've come in 40 years, and what's gonna look like in the next 40 years. Who the heck knows? But one thing's for sure, those things I just mentioned, right? Those skills, they won't change. There's just no way they can. So love you guys. I will talk to you on the next episode. As always, if you have any thoughts, questions, or just think I'm a wackadoodle for this one, feel free to email me, joe@saltstrong.com. I'd love any engagement on this, because I like reading about it. And like I said, I'm excited because I think anytime there's change, there's opportunities. There's opportunities to learn, to be curious, and to find new ways to succeed, to live, and to love. And I will talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.